Greetings. This is Extreme Recap. The 5 laws of zombie motion pictures are notable. 1. No knowledge. 2. Sluggish. 3. Since the zombie can only be killed by destroying the brain or the entire spine, feed on human flesh. 5. The virus is spread through blood, saliva, and scratching. This Japanese zombie film directly defies the conventions of previous zombie films. Change the 5 zombie laws that made the half-human, half-zombie pioneer. This wonderful film is it. At the beginning of the film, I am a hero when scientists discover a zombie virus called ZQN. In Japan, any person infected with ZQN will eventually become a brutal, bloodthirsty zombie. By biting, they spread the virus and produce new ZQNs. With the goal that what was once an organized city immediately transforms into a hunting ground for zombies. Much seriously terrifying that those people who transform into zombies. In addition to the fact that they are delicate to sound, and they are very coordinated. In addition, they continue to engage in their pre-birth behaviors. They keep going back to their previous obsessions. For instance, the sports student who contracted ZQN continued to perform the high jump every day after becoming a zombie. Tirelessly. His ability to bounce is several times greater now than it was when he was born. However, Kurosawa is not the same as a zombie. She has been half human, half zombie ever since she was infected by ZQN. Kurosawa, in contrast to other zombies, has not completely lost her mind. Even her old memories are still there. At the beginning of the outbreak, it turns out that Kurosawa was infected with the zombie virus by a baby. Be that as it may, since the child conveyed a tiny infection, transforming Kurosawa into a zombie was sufficiently not. She wasn't as violent as other zombies, therefore. She turned into a unique half-zombie with cognizance. Prior to the virus's spread, the man Turkish saved was referred to as Suzuki. He had created out-of-date manga. He was employed at a manga studio when the virus infected Suzuki's coworkers and girlfriend. Suzuki only realized at that point that the zombie virus had already spread to Japan. He attempted to flee in a taxi, but it was too late. Prior to him, a man entered the taxi. Kurosawa and Suzuki got into the taxi without fighting. When the taxi was far from the city of smoke, a zombie had bit the man's arm when he suddenly lifted his sleeve, and Suzuki, who saw the scene, didn't have time to scream. He observed the virus attacking his brain. Allow him to finish his transformation. He transformed into a zombie right away, biting anyone in his path. The one who actually held a hint of cognizance inquired as to whether he had tissues. The driver gave the passenger a tissue. The person bit. After viciously following Suzuki, the driver observed the man transform into a zombie and attempt to stop the vehicle. However, the zombie suddenly and fatally attacked him at that very instant. The driver managed to open the vehicle's door in time, despite Suzuki's precarious situation. The zombie was knocked outside the car by Suzuki. He was able to get away from the situation, but he had no idea that the driver who had just saved his life was already infected. He might transform into a zombie with a thirst for blood at any time. The driver suddenly went crazy. He pressed hard on the gas pedal. With the car traveling at 160 miles per hour, Suzuki realized that if the cart continued in this manner, it almost caused Kurika and Suzuki to vomit. It would eventually flip over. As expected, Suzuki and Kiriko buckled up just as they were supposed to. The taxi drove too fast and crashed into the car next to them. The vehicle lost control and began to spin in the air. At the point when Suzuki and Kiriko awakened from their obviousness, they were profoundly stunned by the scene before them. They observed the endless highway of wrecked automobiles. Kiriko discovered this information from her phone at this point by scaling a high altitude. The temperature was low and the air was thin. Therefore, it would be hard to contract the zombie virus. Thus, Suzuki and Kiriko collaborated. They went to Mount Fuji nearby, but Suzuki found out by accident that Kurosawa had been bitten. He asked Kurosawa what had occurred. She let him know that she had been nibbled by a child conveying the zombie infection a couple of days prior. However, Suzuki didn't leave Kiriko. He remained silently with her instead, but his curiosity suddenly changed. 1. I burst into tears right away. Abrupt scene frightened. Suzuki raced to get away, but he had no idea Kyrgyzstan, who had turned into a zombie, was there. Would assist Suzuki in times of danger. It turns out that Curaçao had fewer viruses, so it became a half-zombie that could fight very well and didn't completely lose its mind. However, Suzuki's physical condition caused him to enter a coma after Kurika saved his life. Suzuki needs to compensate her for saving her life. Additionally, Kirika did not injure him, so he carried the sleeping Kirika to Mount Fuji. It was only after he met the uninfected survivors on the way that going to Mount Fuji finished. However, Suzuki found that these survivors adopted centralized rule with a real gun in their hands, which was beyond his wildest expectations. Everyone begins to pay attention to Suzuki. The survivors' leader wants Suzuki to give up his gun, but Suzuki chose to resist Ito's threat. Suzuki, on the other hand, discovered that Curaçao was already under their control as he dashed outside to steal everything from Kirike. Curaçao attempted to save Suzuki at that very moment. Curaçao uncovers his way of life as a half-zombie. The survivors discovered that Curaçao is a zombie. Dido was tasked with getting rid of Curaçao. Edo is threatened by Suzuki right now with a shotgun, but Ito is unfazed by Suzuki's threat. Suzuki was not planning to shoot Cherokee with his crossbow, but Ito is determined to do so. When Ito was excited to get the shotgun, something unexpected happened to him, and the others immediately overpowered him. It turns out that Ito's men have lusted after the leadership position for a very long time. He seized power with a Suzuki shotgun at this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but he had no idea that Ito would cleverly direct them to the food warehouse as they entered the parking lot to collect the substance and use music to attract a large group of zombies. By killing them, he tries to regain control. Ito is nonetheless surprised once more by what transpires next. As they were looking for supplies, a gymnast zombie kept practicing high jumping and eventually reached the top of its life, shoulder to shoulder with the sun, practicing its pre-birth routines. However, the base of the survivor was where it landed. Ogura and Curaçao, who had escaped the catastrophe, were the only survivors at the scene when the zombie took control of the base on its own. While Ogre searches for Suzy while carrying Kara on his back, Ito unexpectedly enters a young lady's sight. If Ogura wants to live, he tells her to follow him. It turns out that Ito is holding a car key. Okura saw the wound on E2's arm as soon as the words were spoken. He was aware that he could instantly transform into a zombie. At that very instant, the virus broke in. Ito's brain changed him into a zombie with a thirst for blood. Ogura could take off with Kurika on her back when she saw the scene since she was unable to save her hands to wrap up. Ito, a young lady, was frantically taking off. Unexpectedly, Suzuki showed up before her. Suzuki fires without hesitation, and Ito is killed. When Suzuki killed Ito and set out on his way to get away with Ogura and Kirakara, he ran into one of the E2's men, and another survivor. However, he did so while a large group of zombies were watching the approaching group. The others, including Suzuki, turn around and flee. Be that as it may, all at once, an enormous gathering of zombies showed up before them. They had no real option except to battle next to each other to kill an exit plan. However, due to the excessive number of zombies, the two survivors were contaminated by the zombies coincidentally, the last making do, just 3 of them right when they thought the emergency was finished. The 3 were suddenly confronted by sports student zombies who had previously occupied the base and launched a lethal attack on Suzuki. But Suzuki put in a lot of effort to kill him. Curaçao is held by Ogura close to Suzuki. However, the zombie Suzuki had just shot at that moment. At this point, she slowly got up straight and fixed her gaze on Suzuki. Suzuki was speechless. Ogura, the zombie, and the 2 of them were pursued by the zombie. At that point, Suzuki stepped forward and used the gun's handle to slam the zombie in the head. At the movie's conclusion, this time completely destroyed it with all of his might. Ogura dragged Suzuki and Kirakara away with her. The movie comes to a close when the warm sun hits Suzuki in the face. Turn on notifications, please subscribe for more videos like this, and like the channel to support it. Thank you very much for watching.